Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Saints, 34-20 winners over Tampa Bay. I think we can all agree on this. We have been watching Sean Payton and Drew Brees together now for 15 years. And what happened on Sunday was far from their collective best performance. Yet, they still beat a division rival who is the media and public darling this year by 2 touchdowns, and it really wasn't even that close. Sean Payton, after the game, the defense was the story of the game. We'll get to that in a second. But the offense is what the Saints' run has been built on now for 15 years. And the offense did not have a landmark day. As a matter of fact, into the fourth quarter, Drew Brees had 94 passing yards. It was actually stunningly low. But here's what Sean Payton said after the game.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, there's games where you feel like you get into a rhythm. And, I thought we ran the ball pretty well. I didn't really help us out any with some of the looks and some of the calls I made. Look, there's a handful of plays that we're going to watch on tape, and it's not going to be the players. It's on me. So I've got to be a lot better.
Like running Taysom Hill on a sweep to the left end on a 3rd and short, would qualify. But as I always say with Sean Payton, you take the good with the bad. And Sean Payton is by nature very aggressive, and it would lead to head-scratching calls like that, but it also leads to you pooch kicking from midfield after a penalty, and that became a major play in the game because whenever Morstead pooched that onside kick after the face mask against Emmanuel Sanders, and Benny Fowler comes up with the recovery on the loose ball after the muff, you netted a field goal there, but that put you up 14 late in the game, and that, for all intents and purposes, ended the game. So you take the good very much with the bad. So a couple of observations from the game on Sunday. Defense was incredible. Let's start there. The Saints' defense was absolutely lights out. Tampa Bay had 310 yards of total offense. A chunk of that was garbage time late in the fourth quarter. And for much of the game, Tampa's best offense was actually the defensive pass interference. First drive of the ball game, they had a 22-yard PI, which set up the first score. Their second score came after a 45-yard defensive pass interference. So, by and large, for much of the game, the Saints' defense throttled Tampa Bay's offense. One of the most absolutely incredible statistics that we have ever and may ever see, not just for New Orleans, but in the entirety of the NFL, is the fact that the New Orleans Saints defense has not allowed a 100-yard rusher since Samaje Perine back in 2017 with the Washington Redskins. And there was so much talk, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, that Tampa Bay offense, and the Saints continued that 100-yard streak again, only allowing 86 rush yards to Tampa Bay in that ball game. Run defense was spectacular. That secondary, maybe a little handsy, led to some of those pass interference penalties. I quite honestly thought it was bogus, many of them, but what are you going to do? It's just the nature of the NFL. You still netted 2 interceptions of Tom Brady, including a pick six, and anytime your defense scores, that's a hell of a day. Offensively, as you heard Sean Payton say there, he felt like they were out of sync. Brain, play number 2, if you would, of Sean Payton. Talking about the win, he elaborated a bit more there.
Look, I thought defensively we were outstanding. I'm proud of how we played in the kicking game as well. Offensively, that was probably as bad a game as I've had as a play caller. Just trying to find a rhythm and a tempo. That was awful. So there'll be a lot we have to correct and clean up. There always is after the first week of the season, regular season, and certainly first game really for us to play. But there's a lot of things we're going to look at that that we're going to need to clean up, and we'll try to do that beginning this week.
We'll talk more about what they need to clean up, but a lot of that certainly was on the offensive side. It was not a great day for Andrus Peat. He got spun around a good bit, but with Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh, Tampa has one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. And then you look at Levante David and Devin White, who are both monsters. That's a really elite defensive front seven, maybe the best defensive front seven in the NFL, maybe alongside New Orleans. Do you realize that Tampa Bay, while only one sack, had 11 tackles for loss in that ballgame? That's a really good defense. A lot of people have asked, hey, what was wrong with Drew Brees? What was wrong with the offense? I think similarly, you could flip it around and say the same about Tom Brady. 43-year-old Tom Brady, man, I guess Father Time's catching up. And maybe there's some of that. The interceptions were awful, and he should have thrown a third, by the way, if Malcolm Jenkins has got his hands up in time. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, it wasn't a great day for Tom Brady either. A large part of that had to do with you were looking at two of the best defenses in the NFL. Like, let that sink in. I would argue both Tampa and New Orleans, whether the stats bear it out or not at the end of the season, are top 5 defenses. So it was tough for those quarterbacks, especially without a preseason, to get going. I would love to see the offensive line improve, and maybe when you get Cesar Ruiz back, that will help. Special teams were spectacular. Marcus Hunt blocked a field goal, which, how cool is it to have a literal Estonian giant on your team blocking field goals? That was so cool. I mean, the ball hit him in the chest. I mean, he actually had Marcus Hunt had a big bruise on his arm after the game in the postgame. But Marcus Hunt gets the blocked field goal. Deontay Harris had 4 punt returns for 59 yards. Averaged, I believe it came around 18 yards a return. The aforementioned onside kick after the Emmanuel Sanders face mask penalty on the touchdown. Saints had the short field. They go for the pooch. Morstead beautifully executes it. Tampa muffs it. Benny Fowler falls on it. Great design, great call, great execution. And then Morstead himself punted 6 times in the ballgame, averaged 44 yards a punt. 5 of his 6 downed inside the 20, and Tampa had 0 return yards. 0. Defense, special teams were spectacular. They lifted the offense on a day where it was out of sync for a good bit, but Alvin Kamara in the end zone twice, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, and really was in a third time, and I was a little stunned that they overturned that one late in the game. But I wasn't too bummed because I actually picked the final score 30-23. So 34-23. I'm sorry, I picked it. Yeah, I picked it 30-23. So 34-23, I'll take it. One other thing people are commenting on has been the trick play at the end of the game. If the Saints should have dialed it up, I'm totally cool with dialing up the trick play at the end of the game. It iced the game, and like I've said so many times for years, with Sean Payton, that's just him. You take the good with the bad. If you don't like calling a trick play at the end of the game like that with Taysom Hill, okay, do you like the Taysom Hill package? Because that all comes from, the genesis of that is all in the same place. You may not like going for it on a 4th down. Well, did you like ambush to start the second half of the Super Bowl? Because if you did, that all comes from the same place. The genesis of that is all in the same place internally with Sean Payton. So I love that about him. And I know there's going to be some times where I'm like, really, Sean, right now? There? But I just accept it all because it's all him. And that's been really good for the Saints over the last 15 years. And they're 1-0 after beating Tampa, leading the division now with losses to the other 3, by the other 3 teams in the division on Sunday. And the Saints are off and running. Now they have an extra day to prepare for the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.